Hello, welcome. As you're coming in, I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Sam Amit, and today we're going to be exploring something that touches every leader I work with. The managers and founders I coach all want to feel less pressure, to be able to manage uncertainty and all those bumps that come our way with more calm. So welcome to exploring together how we can find calm despite the messiness, calm despite the crises, and how to connect to an inner peace. And yes, you can. So I want to first of all honor you for, coming today, for attending. It says a lot about you and your commitment to yourself, finding clarity and influence in moments of intensity. Because calm actually really matters in leadership. And chaos is not just external, it actually begins in the mind. So sometimes we think chaos is always on the outside, but actually it's more around how we process things. It's more like how we perceive things, how we meet the pressures in our life, how we meet those deadlines and change and constant demands. And so, yes, pressure is a constant, but you have much more power, you have much more resources, and you have much more ability than you realize that you can meet the chaos, you can meet the messiness, you can meet the pressure with more calm. And an analogy that I like to use is one of an aeroplane. So assume that the pilot shifts a 1 degree change in direction. That's going to land in a whole new city. And so that's all I'm asking you to do today, just that 1 degree shift. And what would that be for you? And so that is really the secret of finding what will help you shift by 1 degree. Because, we need to normalize all this pressure and all, the hectic work and lives that we live today. So it's very normal. And the question is, how can we meet our life? How can we meet our experience with just that small shift? Because what happens is when you become calmer, everybody else actually is rewarded with, a calmer leader, and it creates trust. When you calm, people can actually listen to you and your communication becomes clearer, and it really inspires trust. So welcome. I'm so happy you're here. And we are talking all about ways that we can meet the pressure that's on the outside and actually also within us with much more calm. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. We are going to be looking at different leaders and stories of them. So I'm going to be looking at Alex. I'm going to be looking at Leah. I'm going to be talking about Nora and Ethan as well, 4 different leaders, and how they met the demands that were in their work and how they changed for the better. So we're also going to be spending time on the Mindful Act leadership model. The Mindful Act leadership model is something I wrote about in Mindfulness at Work, a book that I authored with Professor Passmore. And so I'm giving all of this to you now for free because even though I coach leaders in 40 countries, I can't split myself and coach everybody. And so this is really stuff that I'm seeing that is a repeated pattern. It's normal. Even everybody, you cannot live on our planet today and not experience pressure, not experience some kind of stress. Just today, I had a leader come into my coach room and he told me he felt scattered. And what did that mean for him? It meant for him that his brain had to reorganize everything. He was analytical. He was like a genius, and he had to reorganize and reprioritize his whole morning because everything went haywire. New stuff came in, new like really serious stuff came in. And you know, when you're working in different time zones, that could be a real problem because you go to sleep at night, you wake up in the morning, and wow, it's a big surprise. And then there are no people to even speak to. So let's start talking about Alex. So I'm going to be speaking about Alex now and the shift that he made. But first of all, let's just get you into the picture of who is Alex. So Alex, he lives in the UK and he's an IT manager. He's married and he has 2 kids. So he's an IT consultant. He's bright, he's kind, he's very capable. And when we started coaching, he was very frustrated. Okay, he was overwhelmed. He actually didn't even know, he didn't even really believe that the coaching may have helped him because he was just like constantly chasing outcomes and he felt very, very stretched. He had a team. He wasn't using his team as well as he could be. And he felt like he was always proving himself. He was always giving more. And so I invited him into a new space where he could change some tactics, a space where he could just have a look and notice and make some observations and start collecting some data. And so actually, I use these tools with all the leaders I coach. I have a tool called the Presence Prep, where we prep ourselves to be present before meetings. And that tool, I'm going to, happy to, share that with you for free. Just reach out to me and tell me that you'd like the Presence Prep tool. That also comes from the Mindful Act leadership model. And then there's also the meeting reset, and that we do after meetings, because if you go from meeting to meeting, you're not going to be able to really observe what's going on with you. And let's say you're pressured, the pressure usually just builds, and stress is like a inverted U. And so what happens, it creeps up on us and then it hits us at the top. And then our productivity starts decreasing. So even if you're a person that's good at handling pressure, that you are, you know how to regulate yourself, we all have this tipping point. And so we want to be able to today get some tips on how to process what's going on during our day, how to notice more, how we are, how we're showing up, what's helping us and what isn't. And so Alex started using these 2 tools. The one is before meetings, the other is after meetings, and he started collecting some really cool data. And he started noticing the impact that he was having. And so he went from being, all over the place to much more present. He went from being reactive to slowly starting to, be less overloaded, bringing more calm in, and he started to be much more strategic. And even though he wasn't thinking about delegation, and we didn't talk about delegation, he just started actually letting go of stuff that he could really give his team. And these are all things, we were speaking about. And so he really shifted from being that always on, overwhelmed, frustrated, into using tools that gave him the ability to observe what was really happening, observe the pressure, and see very easily and very clearly what he could change. And that's the power of, noticing. That's the power of pausing to take the time to get clear around how you want to be. And that in itself introduces calm. So now I want to introduce to you a new leader, and she's really smart. Her name's Leah, and she's one of those people that everyone relies on. She's in the professional services space, and she's highly responsible, and she's very also responsive. And so people loved picking her brain and coming to her. But the problem is it caught up with her, and how it showed up with her is that she was just really tired. And when you notice that you're starting to become tired, that's actually a sign of like you nearing towards burnout. And so if Leah wouldn't have come to work with me, that she was a high risk for burnout, and she didn't even realize it, because you know what? She was so passionate about the work she does. And so she was like, she loved her work, but what she was noticing is that she's actually just extra tired. And one of the things that started worrying her is that she started waking up in the middle of the night, remembering things that she hadn't done, and then she started working in the middle of the night. So I know a lot of people, they wake up, they check their phones and go back to sleep, but she was actually started working. So, and then she was trying to hold everything together. And so again, we began with just asking, Leah, how would less intense look like today? And at the beginning of the day, you know, in the beginning, she just laughed and she thought, there's no ways I'm going to be able to change anything. But my, my style is very non-invasive. It's like, if you're ready and you're willing, just try this. Just, are you willing to try and experiment with me? Because what we do is we actually, you are stretched to try something new. And so you do need to figure out what that is and how you're going to, implement it in your day. And you need to have high motivation to do it. So all these leaders were suffering. They noticed that they could be much better. They could reach their next level. And they were stuck, not because of anything else, but because of themselves. And so she started, letting others step in. Leah started becoming quieter in meetings. And that was really very powerful because she gave others space. So in a way, her leadership really empowered others. It gave them a chance to influence. And her leadership became very, very powerful. And she realized something so beautiful. And this is her words. She said, my wisdom doesn't need to show up in every moment. Because her confidence was based on her being smart and people needing her all the time. And so she had to be there. She had to be available. She had to be always on in all the meetings. And so that's what mindful leadership is like in motion. And so now I want to share another leader with you. And so let's talk about Nora. Nora is a VP in sales. She's in professional services. And her pattern was to lean in a little too much, to carry so much pressure for everybody. If you have headaches, if you have, backaches, it's from carrying too much pressure. It's, holding so much for everybody. And so, her pressure was, you could understand. She had this new senior VP and he wanted updates. He was new to the business. And so he was insecure, and he was brought in because the previous senior VP wasn't meeting targets. And so, Nora had to actually understand what he needed and meet him. And so, the easy thing would be for her to be triggered to over-deliver and prove herself to him. He was trying to prove himself. And so within the system, everybody was like, and through coaching, what we did is we started introducing systems weekly, handovers, and she found a new rhythm in her communication. And so what am I saying to you? Like, really think about yourself. Are you structured as a person, or are you more unstructured? Structure is really important when there's pressure. Structure and systems, to have like really great systems in place, is really important. It's important for transparency. It's important for bringing down pressure. It's important for, building confidence and gaining trust. And so what she did is she created these systems and she created structure that became her new calm. So not only did it steady her, it steadied her boss and it steadied the entire team. So Nora shifted from control to actual clear clarity. And what she said really stuck with me. And she said, clarity is contagious. And the whole team stepped up. The whole team stepped up because there were systems in place. There was structures in place. And so everybody, calm down. So just before we continue with Ethan, I want to say hi again and thank you for being here. I'm Samantha Ahmet. My clients call me Sam, and I've been coaching for 18 years. I was previously in tech. And how I got to this approach of mindfulness coaching and mindfulness leadership is that I myself, by nature, I'm a perfectionist. By nature, I am, a pleaser. And it started when I was in high tech and I used to come home exhausted, and my poor two kids, they didn't receive a mom that wanted to be present with them. They received a mom that was, like this perfectionist. I was like this superwoman at work, but when I came home, I was really ashamed of how I was as a mom. And so I knew something had shifted. And so I was like learning. What could I do to gain tools to shift myself from being like in this tight control and so pressurized that when I came home, I just like let everything out on my kids. And I would shout at my kids that didn't deserve that. And when they cried, I was like, oh, I can't believe they're crying. And so I can tell you that everything's changed. They've actually grown up today. But I love to coach parents to have a full life and to be able to manage their energy because I couldn't manage mine. And so I have many tools that I've written about in my book called Mindfulness and Work. And these are some of the tools that I'm sharing with you in these mindset shifts. It's not so much about what you're doing. It's more the intention and you deciding that you want to shift. So I decided that I just didn't like myself anymore as a mother, and I knew that I needed to change something. And so, today, one of my biggest tools is that I myself practice mindfulness and I meditate. But for everybody, that could be different. So let's go into Ethan, because for Ethan, his meditation is swimming. And so for each of you, what is it for you that's going to bring down the pressure and bring in the calm? And so Ethan is somebody I want to talk about now. So he is in the cyberspace. And so what happens, anybody that's in the cyberspace that have, a thriving business with lots of clients that are live know that they're going to be cyber incidences. And so that's quite normal. But when there is an incident, there is pressure, and the pressure is intense. And everybody's rattling around to, get everything under control. And so there are lots of meetings and sometimes weekends as well. And of course, everyone wanted Ethan because Ethan is this calm leader. He is strategic. And even though this incident that I'm sharing with you now wasn't directly in his role, it was in his values to help. And so he wants to step in. But like I told you, when stress is an inverted U, you need to know how to manage your energy. And now I'm giving you an example of Ethan, who knows how to manage his energy. And you might think, well, what is he doing with Sam? Like, why is he coaching with you? And because I don't only coach about, being calm. That's just like, calm is like something that we need to have to be coachable. Because when you're not calm, then what happens is your mind can't be strategic, and your problem solving is like really, not at a good, as good as it could be. And so with Ethan, we do different things. I'll tell you in a few minutes. But what Ethan did when this incident came up he said, what will I prioritize? And how can my team step up now? How can they step up more? So he had to give them even more trust and ask them to step into parts of a role that wasn't actually theirs either. And so that also means you need to realign. If you want to ask somebody to do something, you need to check not only if they're able to do it and if they have the systems in place, etc., but you do need to align with them that they can do it. And so he did delegate some of the stuff he would normally do very clearly, and he communicated concisely. And he accepted that some things would have to wait. You know, there's a model by David Allen that I love to use, GTD, getting things done. And so what David Allen calls it is freezing. So sometimes you have to freeze certain projects, you have to freeze certain tasks because something else is becoming important. And so when you have it in a system and it's not all in your head, then it's easy to put it on a status of freeze, and it could be, you know, temporary. Anyway, so to get back to Ethan, Ethan modeled what calm was under pressure. And his steadiness helped others to regain theirs. And so what was the coaching like with me? It was really more about supporting him during this turbulent time. But what we usually do, I'm a trusted advisor, because when you come into the coaching with me, it's confidential. We also have groups that we work in a group setting. But, you know, leaders have a lot going on and they don't always have somebody to talk to. And so when you don't have somebody to talk to, the pressure just builds. And as we know, the quicker you make decisions today, the better off you are. And so we spend a lot of our time, Ethan and I, in strategy and just looking at different things. And so I feel like I've been talking for a long time. And what I want to do now is I actually want to share a model. So let me find the model, and it's called the Mindful Act Leadership Model. So I'm going to put it on the screen now. 1 second. So the Mindful Act Leadership Model, ACT, is an acronym that stands for, the A stands for achieve, the C stands for connect, and the T stands for thrive. And so if you can see the screen, what you're going to be seeing is that the achieve part is all about me and myself. The connect part is about one-on-ones or one-to-many. And the T is thrive. And the reason is that if you're not thriving, then you're surviving. And so let's understand a little bit more about how the Mindful Act leadership model, which I wrote about in my book, Mindfulness at Work, with Professor Passmore. That Professor Passmore is a professor of psychology, and he brought in all the academic, the neuroscience behind this model. And so I've been using it for years and seeing results. And, you know, the results are based on something. So if we look through each of the lenses, me and myself, so the first thing is your awareness. The achieve is all around me and myself. And how can I build that awareness muscle and regulate myself in high pressure moments? In other words, even decide that calm is an intention. And so what you can do at the moment, even now, while we are speaking, is just start breathing in and breathing out. And so that's one of the ways that you can invite in calm. Even like now, taking in 3 breaths, no matter what you're doing, if you are, whatever you're doing, you can breathe, because that's always available. So take a bit of a longer breath. When we breathe in more deeply, what we do is we actually trick our brains to think that we're calm, because when we breathe deeply, our brains think we're calm. And so that way we actually activate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calming system. And so as you're listening to me now, just let's take in 3 breaths, breathing in and breathing out. And so what you can actually do is breathe in Breathe in through your nose. So breathing in through your nose, a deeper breath to the count of 4. Hold the breath for a second and then breathe out, an audible breath. So you can breathe out for the count of 6. But when you breathe out and you're by yourself, you can always also just let it out. Just letting it all out. And so believe it or not, I do visualizations with my clients. That's actually my superpower. By the way, when you use your superpowers and you use them in balance, like you're not overusing them, then you're going to access calm, because it calms us when we use our strength as well, especially when you're using it and you're centered and connected. So the breath, always come back to the breath. And as you're listening to me now, I'm going to invite you to breathe. So I want to go to the next element, which is C, or the next pillar. And again, this is the mindful act leadership model. And act means you need to do something. And so the connection piece is about managing the pressure with your team. And the best way I want to encourage you to do that is through shared leadership. Not everything needs to be on your shoulders. You can take Nora's approach and introduce more structure if that's what you need. See that you've got the systems in place. You need internal systems. You need external systems if you're working with a lot of external stakeholders. And so if you can share that leadership, that it's not all on your plate, you're going to manage the pressure together with your team. You're going to be much more calmer. And now I want to go back into the thrive, which is the third element. And this is the many-to-many relationships. And here again, it's about building systems that maintain the steadiness in uncertainty. And the systems need to be across multiple people, across multiple layers, especially if your stakeholders are in different countries. And so I'm just going to go back into the self-awareness piece of the achieve. So for the achieve, what we want to do is notice our thinking and notice what we're doing. So our behavior and our thinking, and just check in and say, is this serving me? And again, I've got those tools that I mentioned that I'm happy to gift you. And so just reach out to me. Please tell me you want, the tools that I mentioned. There's the daily leadership reset that a lot of managers are using at the end of their day. And that's how they can track their thinking. They can track their behavior. They can track how their day was and what their energy is like. They can track what their relationships are like. That's the connect piece of the ACT model. And they can notice if there's connection or if there's disconnection. If there's disconnection, that's going to immediately increase pressure. And so we want to create connection first in relationships. And the easiest way for you to feel it is you can actually feel it. You can sense in your body if you are not calm. If there's too much pressure, you feel it immediately in your body. And so that's the Mindful Act leadership model. And I want to leave you with some practices that you can do this week. So one of them is to identify where you are and what you need to level up. So I'm sure all of you want to level up. And so in the achieve piece, one of the practices you can do is the self-regulation practice. Naming calm as an intention. That's really easy to do. So how you do it is you wake up in the morning and you decide what will serve me this morning. How can I be calm throughout my day, or calmer? Remember, we want that 1 degree shift. We're not looking to be completely calm because that's not possible, but we want to find pockets within our day that we can take those pauses and be able to bring down the stress. And so in the connection piece, see how you can share leadership more. In the thrive piece, see how you can introduce structures that they can come in to manage all the moving parts. That's the thrive piece of that model. And I really recommend David Allen's GTD. He's going to help you manage yourself much better. So the tools that I'm offering is the presence prep, the meeting recess, and the daily leadership reset. These are all available to you, and I would love you to, to reach out to me, and we can experiment together with these tools. So thank you so much for joining. I would love you to join me in the next mindset shift. It's not about what you're doing so much. It's first of all your intention and that mindset of what you want to do, that choice that is, in your influence that you choose, and then bringing that in and seeing how you can reduce the chaos, you can reduce the pressure, and see how you get that shift in your leadership to become calmer. Your team becomes calmer, and the business thrives as a result. So thank you again, Samantha Ahmet, and lovely being with you here today.